Right, good evening. Right, so we are going to recall what we've done last week. We've done on coordinate geometry. We've done how to find the midpoint, how to find the gradient between 2 points, and also how to find the length between 2 points again. So on exercise 1 is just the recall on what we have done last week. So there are questions number 1 up to 10 that you are supposed to answer. So I'm going to guide you 1 or 2 questions so that you can get a clear picture on what we are really saying. Right. So on number 1, the question is saying a straight line joining the points A and B is a gradient of 4. Work out the value of K. So now we know how to find the gradient between 2 points. We have a point A and a point B, and we are told the gradient of between these 2 points is equal to 4. So we want to find this unknown value of K. So the gradient, we know gradient it's change in y over change in x. That is y2 minus y1 over x2. So that is we are subtracting the y values like this y and this y. Let's subtract, that is the change in y. So we are going to say minus 5, this minus 5 minus the other y, which is minus k, minus 5 minus k over, then the change in x. Here we have started with this point, so we are going to also start with this point. Change in x, that is 3 minus 6 over 3 minus 6, that is the gradient. And we are told that the gradient is what is equals to 4. So we equate this to 4. Right? Then let's simplify. We have minus 5 minus 5 minus k is 2 minus 5 minus k, because we don't know the value of k. That is the one we want to look at. Over 3 minus 6 is minus 3 is equal to 4. 4 is the same as over 1. So we want to find the value of k. What are we going to do here? We are going to cross multiply. Here 1 times this, you get minus 5 minus k is equal to minus 3 times 4, you get minus 12. So I think in this case, you are now able to find a. So I have just guided you on how are you going to find a. The gradient between a and b is 4. So this is the process where we find the gradient between 2 points. Change in y, the y value subtract minus 5 minus k over change in x, 3 minus 6. Then we equate to 4. Then you cross multiply like this. So I hope you can now complete the value of k. You can now find the value of k, right? Then on number 2, the straight line joining the points A and B have a length of 5. Find the value of P. So again, last week you know how to find the length between A and B. The length between A and B, where we said AB, the length of AB. This is where we said you introduce the square root. We introduce the square root, then you subtract the x values. What is our x? It's P minus 1. Let's subtract the x values. P minus 1 inside the square bracket, we square. Then we add, let's subtract the y. We want to subtract the y. 3 minus 1. What do we get? If you say 3 minus 1, you get 3 plus 1. So it's 3 plus 1. Then we square. Then we are told that this length is equal to 5. then this length is equal to 5, then we equate to 5. So now we have the square root of p minus 1 squared, p minus 1 squared. Then 3 plus 1 is 4. Then if we square it, we have 16. So plus 16 then is equal to 5. Now we want to find the value of p. What are we going to do? Do we really need to expand this? No, it will be complicated. So first of all, let's remove the square root. We remove the square root by squaring both sides. Let's square this side. If we square, the square root disappears. So if we square this side, we are going to remain with p minus 1 squared. Then plus 16. We are going to remain what is inside the square root. Plus 16 is equal to, if we square 5, it's 25. Then now let's remove this 16 and goes to that side. So we will have 25 minus 16. And to this side we remain with p minus 1 squared. And let's say what is 25 minus 16? It's 9. We're going to have 9. And here we still have p minus 1 squared. And what do we do if you want to find p? Like what I've said, there is no need to expand. How do we remove this square? We are also going to remove this square by introducing the square root. We are now going to introduce the square root. So if you want to remove the square root, you square. If you want to remove the square, you put the square root. But since we are solving, this is why we said we should put plus or minus. And if you look at the question, it's saying work out the values of p, which means there are several values of p. In this case, we have 2. So whenever we introduce a square root, make sure to put a plus or minus. Because we are saying what is plus or minus square root of 9? It's plus or minus 3. So this is plus or minus 3. Then here you remain with p minus 1. So p minus 1 is equal to plus or minus 3. So to find the values of p, you are going to say p minus 1 is equal to, you are going to take the positive 3 first, and you say p minus 1 is equal to minus 3. So you complete the values of what? The values of p, the required values of p. So this is number 2 on how you can answer number 2. Right? Let me wrap this. Let me wrap and see which number can we also attempt. Which number can we also attempt? Right, so we are now moving on to the next number. The number is number 3. Number 3 is just, so I'm just going to explain where it's very straightforward. Then you can complete. Then number 3 is saying M is the midpoint of the line joining A and B. You know how we have calculated the midpoint, where we said you add the X values, then divide by 2. You also add the Y values, then divide by 2. So M is the midpoint. Given that C is this coordinate, find the gradient of MC. So what we really need to do here is to find the M. You are going to find the point of M. So after finding the midpoint, which is midpoint of A and B, you are going to have the midpoint M. Then you find the gradient with C. So number 3 is just the matter of fact finding M, which is the midpoint of A and B. So like like recalling, let's recall how do you find the m? M is the midpoint of A and B. So what do we do for x? Let's add the x values. We're going to say minus 5 plus 3, then divided by 2. That will be the midpoint for the x value. Then for the y, we have the y values minus 2 plus minus 8. Please, here we are adding. We add the x values, then we add the y values, then divide by 2. If we add the x values, divide by 2. If you add the y values, you divide by 2. So you are going to simplify. Please simplify. Then you have your midpoint. So you now have the midpoint. Then find the gradient of this midpoint at this point C. After that, you are also going to find the length MC. That is, you find the length between M and C. Then you are done. Then number 4, the gradient of the line joining this and this, it's 1. Find the midpoint of A and B. So now in this case, to find the midpoint of A and B, you need to find the value of K first. You need to find the value of K first because here point A has got a K which is unknown. But if you look at what we have done on number 4, I think you are now able to find the value of K. You find the gradient of A and B, then you equate to 1. Then after that, you find K. Then after finding K, you substitute where the value of K is. Then you find the midpoint, like what we've done on number 3. On number 5, the midpoint of the line joining PQ is this one. This is our midpoint. We are told the midpoint joining P and Q is this one. So work out the values of A and B. It's simple and straightforward. What we are going to do, we are going to say this x value on the midpoint is as a result of adding the x's and divide by 2. This is our midpoint. How do we find the midpoint? This x value, the x value of midpoint is minus 2a. How do we find this point? This point is as a result of adding this x for p, which is b, then plus adding this x value for q, which is minus 2. Then we divide by 2. So in this case, you will see that if we are going to cross multiply, let's cross multiply 2 and 2a. What do you get? You get minus 4a is equal to b minus 2. Then you are going to arrange this equation. You are going to say this equation is now your equation 1. We can't find a and b because they are two unknown. Now let's look at the y coordinate of the midpoint. The y coordinate of the midpoint is a. So a is as a result of adding the y values. Let's add the y values. We are adding minus 1 plus 7. Then we divide by 2. So minus 1 plus 7 is 6. Then you divide by 2, you get 3. So the value of a in this case is straightforward. The value of a is what? It's 3. Then you go and substitute in your equation 1 where there is a, go and put 3. Then you find the value of p. So I'm going to repeat on number 5. Number 5 is saying the midpoint joining this point and this point is this one. This is the midpoint. They've already calculated the midpoint for you. So what are we saying? The x value of the midpoint is as a result of adding the x values, then divide by 2. This is what we have done. So after that, we cross multiplied. Minus 2a times 2, we get this one. Then here, b plus minus 2 is b minus 2. Then we said it's our equation 1. Fine. Then for the y value of the midpoint, it's a. Where do we get this a? We are adding the y values, then we divide by 2. That is -1 plus 7. We divide by 2. Then straight we can find the value of a. Then we have to substitute in equation 1. So on number, so what I've done here, I have explained number 1 to 5. I want you to do on your own number 6 to number 10 alone. Please try by all means to relate what we've done last week. Like on number 10, they are saying the triangle ABC is a triangle with these vertices. Show that the triangle ABC is an isosceles. You know what is an isosceles triangle? An isosceles triangle is a triangle with two equal sides. So if you just sketch a triangle, let's say this point is A and this point is B and this point is C. Then they are saying show that triangle ABC is an isosceles. How do you show that it's an isosceles? You're going to calculate the length of AB, you calculate the length of AC, you calculate the length of BC. Then you are going to see that two of the angles they are equal. Because an isosceles triangle is a triangle where two sides are equal. That is an isosceles triangle. So how do you show? You find the length of AC, you find the length of AB, you find the length of BC. I think you know how to find the length. Then if you find the length, you are going to see that with those three lengths, some of the two lengths they are equal. So if it happens that you have found the two lengths which are equal, then you have shown that the triangle ABC is an isosceles. So please, you can try this exercise 1 tonight, or you can try tomorrow. Tomorrow we are also going to discuss some of the question, but I'm expecting you to attend. If you are free tonight, you can attend exercise number 1. So good night.